This video is to kind of get you started on the Derivative Lab 1. In your class, you have all the solutions out, but sometimes it's really nice to get a little boost on this, and I wanted to make sure that you had everything here. So first of all, the Derivative Lab is in your packet. The other thing I want to tell you about this is that you have to do this in your spiral notebook, because if you don't, you're not going to have enough room. So all of these should be done in your spiral notebook. The formula or the formula that you're going to use for this is going to be a little bit different. When you find the derivative, you're going to do f prime of a is going to be the limit as a approaches, excuse me, not a, h approaches 0. I don't know why I said that. As h approaches 0 of f of a plus h minus f of a all over h. And in this case, we're actually going to do a point. So the a is whatever x value we give you that we want to find the derivative. And remember, you're actually finding the slope at that point on the graph. So notice the f's are here. That means you're going to have different kind of functions that you're going to plug in this difference quotient, which is basically a slope, to figure out what the slope is or the derivative is at that point. So you're going to do that all the way 1 through 6. I'm going to do a couple with you. 7 and 8 are the same thing, but now on this, you're going to actually use the equation of the tangent line, which is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Because as you do the derivative for each one of these at x is 2, you're going to find the slope. So by doing these, you're going to be having the slope by doing the work. And the only difference with these is you're actually going to plug a point in and come up with a tangent line at that point. So when you do something like number 7, what you're really doing is you're going through and finding the derivative. But before I do that, if I plug the point 2 in this function, it's 218. That is going to go into my x1 and my y1 in part of the formula. And the rest of this is you're going to do to find the slope. So that's how 7 and 8 is. 9 and 10, basically for 9 and 10, what you're going to do when it says estimate this is you're going to use your calculator or a table on your calculator, and then you're going to actually plug in the difference quotient and use your table to estimate. So notice the words estimate. There's no algebra with these two, so that's what you're going to do on those two. And the one that I really wanted to show you is number 12. Is basically what you're looking for is smallest slopes to the largest slopes, because it says arrange the derivatives of these points in order from smallest to largest. But I really wanted to show you this is because when I printed this, these points weren't there. So take a moment, please, and put those points on there, and all you have to do is arrange them. That's all you have to do. So the back page of this is not as intensive with algebra as the front page. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to add a page right here, and I'm going to start doing at least 1 or 2 of these so you get an idea. So I'm going to do number 1 right off the bat so you can actually put this in your spiral notebook. So let me erase that. I want to make sure. So again, remember, you're going to be using the formula ready for this is f, the limit. Let me start with limit. So hang on. We can do f prime of x is the limit as h approaches 0 of this formula f of a plus h minus f of a all over h. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing for every single one of these. If you don't need to write that down every single time because you'll kind of get the hang of it, but you might at first to get used to this. So the first one is f of x equals 6x squared. So that's my function. And at x equals 8, I want you to basically find the derivative or the slope at that point, okay? So what you're going to do there is actually start doing the work. So I'm going to do f prime of 8 is going to be the limit as h approaches 0 of f of 8 plus h minus f of 8 all over h. Now, I don't mind that you write that out each time, but after a while, you'll kind of get the hang of it. Now, the f's are still there. So that means I actually have to plug 8 plus h and 8 into the formula, and my formula is right here. That's what I'm going to use, or my function, if you will. So f prime of 8 is going to be the limit as h approaches 0 of 6 times 8 plus h squared, because that's my function, minus 6 times 8 squared, because that's my function, all over 8. H. And as long as you do that, you have kind of done all the calculus part. The rest of this is just algebra. And we're going to keep going using some of what we've learned already. So f prime of 8 is going to be the limit as h approaches 0. Now, the first thing I want you guys to notice is this is a number actually, and the number is 384. So I'm really subtracting 384. So that'll help. So I'm going to multiply this all out, and then I'm going to multiply it by 6. So let's take it a couple steps here. So 6 times 64 plus 16h plus h squared minus 384 all over h. So f prime of 8 equals the limit. And I had a professor, it was so funny, I was telling the kids in class, who I don't know what country he was from, because he always called h's h. So I always wondered why he hated h's, but he always used to say that. So I've got 384. I'm doing the distributive property now. Okay, plus 96h plus 6h squared minus 384 all over h. Okay, now when I do that, what is beautiful is if this back all cancels, it won't be this nice, but notice they cancel out. And then I say, oh, I still can't plug the 0 over 0 in. So you know what I'm going to do is factor that h out. So I have f prime of 8 is the limit as h approaches 0 of h. I'm going to take that out and have 96 plus 6h all over h. Now, these divide out to make a 1 equals the limit as h approaches 0 of 96 plus 6h. And now I'm just going to plug my 0 in. So f prime of 8, now once I plug it in, I don't need to write it, is 96 plus 6 times 0 equals 96. So that basically is my derivative, which is, remember, the slope when x was 8. So it's very steep, very, very steep. So I can say f prime of 8 equals 96, which means the slope, if I was going to do a tangent line, is 96 at that point. But this is all you need to write, right? I want to do one more with you, just one more. So I'm going to add a page. Let's do something like, I think which one I did in class was 6. So I'll do 6 here with you. So 6 is f of x equals x to the negative 2. And at x equals 3, I want to find the derivative or the slope. All right? So f prime of x, and I'm going to actually change that to make that f prime of 3, because that's what we're looking for. So f prime of 3 is the limit as h approaches 0 of f of 3 plus h minus f of 3 all over h. So I'm throwing at the 3 in the a spot. And the other thing I want you to notice is I have x to the negative 2. I think this would be easier if I wrote it as f of x equals 1 over x squared, which is the same thing, but I think the algebra would be a lot easier, so that's what we're going to do. All right, so now when I plug it in, all right, I'm going to do f prime of 3 is the limit, because I got to get rid of those f's of as h approaches 0, of 1 over 3 plus h squared minus 1 over 3 squared, okay, all over h. Now I've plugged it in the formula. The f is gone. Now if I look at this, this is really 1/9. If I were to look at it right here, this is really 1/9. And I see I have a complex fraction, so I'm going to do over 1. I'm going to multiply everything by the common denominator. So I'm going to multiply by 9 times 3 plus h squared, 9 times 3 plus h squared. in 9 times 3 plus h squared because it's a complex fraction. So I have f prime of 3 is going to equal the limit as h approaches 0 of, thanks for playing, 9, ready, minus, and this is the biggest mistake people do, thanks for playing, 3 plus h squared, and please make sure you know it's in parentheses, all over 9h times 3 plus h squared. Please never multiply the bottom out, just leave it. It'll be a big mess if you do. So let's go through and do our algebra. F prime of 3 is the limit as h approaches 0 of 9 minus, this is 9 plus 6h plus h squared all over 9h times 3 plus h squared. And then I notice, look, this, I can change all the signs, so I have 9 minus 6h minus h squared. And that's important because you got to, that's why I put it in parentheses. As you can see, this will make where the 9s cancel out. But the parentheses, you need to have the parentheses or it's not going to work. So I say thanks for playing. So f prime of 3 is the limit as h approaches 0 of negative 6h minus h squared all over 9h 3 plus h squared. And then I see, oh, I can factor an h out. So this equals a limit as h approaches 0. And I'm just going to factor the h out. So I have negative 6 minus h all over 9h 3 plus h squared. Now that I have all factors, I can cancel and divide to make ones. So I have f prime of 3. Let me extend this page a little bit. F prime of 3 equals the limit as h approaches 0 of negative 6 minus h all over 9 times 3 plus h squared. And now I see I can throw my 0 in, so I do. So I have negative 6 minus 0. Notice I stopped writing the word limit. Over 9 times 3 plus 0 squared, which is negative 6 over 9 times 9, or 81, which reduces down to, I think, negative 2 over 27. Hold on a second, let me double check. Oh, I kind of left it that way, but it does reduce down to like negative 2 over 27 if you want. So that is the slope at that point. So I've done a couple with you. If you get stuck, make sure that you come to me with questions. So let me go back here and stop this video. So good luck.